That's interesting. Tell me, you couldn't see the link. Albert, what happened there?
I couldn't see the link on the Slack channel.
It's there. I just tagged you in it.
It's not. I can't find it as well. It's only Awoye that just sent it now.
What I just no. I just tagged it. It's there. So other people are joined. So I mean, I've joined. So obviously the link is there. There's
Oh,
nobody would have joined.
oh, I see.
Have you seen it now?
Please
Yes.
tag me as well.
You're tagged, so.
I think it's the way the link was shared this week is kind of different from the normal way. So I think that's why people
Oh,
are
I see.
missing
Is
it.
that why?
I
Okay.
think that's why people are missing it.
Okay. We'll take care of that. Let me see. Okay. Anyway, I will put that into consideration. I think it's because it was lost between assignments and people submitting stuff. But it's there. It's just before Cynthia submitted our work. So between Wumi and Cynthia. Anyways, we're gonna start now. So thank you, everyone. We go. Sharing screen on. Okay. Any questions from anyone regarding the project? I know I haven't reached out to some people yet. I'm sort of going through the list one by one. So if I haven't spoken to you, I will call you at some point this weekend, next week, by the grace of God. So we only have one taker so far regarding task group B, task 3. Only Mr. Larry has attempted it. Has anyone also tried it? It's just Mr. Larry's so far. Maybe people are trying in the background and not telling us.
Is it
But for
group B?
people that are experienced, that is the sort of task you want to engage in. So the group B task, week 3. So it's a kind of task you want to take on board because it will test different aspects of your experience. And then okay, all right, there are no questions. We are going to move on. So we're just going to build on what we have been learning. Right. Let me share this, and then we go from there. So I'm going to kind of take us back to week 3 project, and then we are going to expand on that to learn some new ideas. Let's get this week 3 task up, and then we can start recording. I hope the fireworks sound is not getting through to you guys. Hope not. It's sort of deafening. Okay. Okay. 3 task. Yeah. Just bear with me. I'm trying to load the document. It's just for some reason. Taking long. Right. The 3 task group A. We are. I'll put it here. Then I'll start recording. Thank you, everyone. It's good to have you again. So today, just start recording. Oh. So we've been recording and not doing anything. Okay, that's fine. I'm gonna hopefully edit that out of it. Okay, thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining. Hope we all had a good week. So I want to thank you, obviously, for a lot of people making an attempt to do the work. It is in learning, it is in doing the work that will reinforce our learning. So thank you. That's the secret of succeeding as far as this the cohort is concerned. So please keep up the good work. And as much as possible, try to practice, do the project, stretch yourself a little bit, and that's how learning will come. So well done. I think I got like a fixed me feedback. Some are saying that they want to be stretched a little bit further. Some are actually catching their breath, trying to finish the work. So obviously, we all have different backgrounds, so I totally understand that. But naturally, the the demand of the work would increase. So it makes sense to kind of hang in there and make sure you are squeezing every juice from the videos, the classes, and the project, because these are the foundations. This is the foundation we are building. At some point, we would then begin to get all the building block on the foundation, and then we can begin to then obviously bring the house together. So the foundation is important to make sure we understand what cloud is, what are we trying to do with DevOps and all the rest of it. So and then as soon as we are able to kind of cement our foundation, we can then hopefully ramp up quite quickly and then bring all the news, all the bells and whistles as far as DevOps is concerned. Okay, so let me. Okay, coding. Okay, cool. Right. Okay, so for today, just following up on the project we had this week finishing today. We looked at what a two-tier architecture looks like. We said, okay, for our project, we want to have a front-end tier 1 system running a web server, a back-end tier system, a back-end tier 2 system running Python and Java 2. I hope you have discovered that what makes a machine a back-end or a front-end or a tier 1 or a tier 2, it all comes down to the application is running, the software is, the node is running. So generally you have a VM, and then you provision your VM to run some services or to run some application. It is the application that you run a system that makes that machine to be X. So if you're running Apache web server or Nginx your system, then you're turning it into a web server. You're running Java or Python on it, you're making an application server, and so on and so forth. If you're running a database system on it, you're making a database server. So we need to understand this concept. And we also need to understand the concept of leveraging a VM and building things out yourself, which is infrastructure as service, or leveraging an existing prepared tooling, which is platform as service, or leveraging a full-fledged solution, which is software as a service. So you might look at it in the context of, an orange fruit. From orange, you can basically eat the orange raw, just get out the outer layer and then eat it raw. That's one option of consuming an orange. Another option might be you want to juice it and then just get like a juicer, maybe something that you can just squeeze the orange on and just juice it. And you might juice it such that you remove the bits from the orange, or you let the bits come through with the orange. That's another way of playing with the orange. Another way is to peel out the outer layer and drop it in like a blender, and you just blend it up. So you can go from eating an orange raw the way it is, or you can squeeze out the juice, maybe using a juicer to get the juice out, or you can actually put that orange in a blender and just blend it up. So you can take that, you getting the orange, that is almost like infrastructure as service, because you have the orange yourself, okay? And you can do whatever you want with the orange. You can decide to eat it raw, or you can decide to fine tune it and make it like an orange juice. Orange juice is like, you can liken that to like to platform as a service, because the orange has been morphed into a specific kind of orange, which is orange juice. It's been processed. So some people might say, okay, I don't want to eat the orange raw. I don't have time to make orange juice. I'm just going to rush to the supermarket, and then I'm going to get like Nestle or Coca-Cola or some brand orange juice that's already prepared. And that is software as a service. So it's ready to go. You go to the mall, get it, open it, drink it. But the problem with that is you'll be drinking whatever else that's been packaged without orange juice. So, but in that case, let's say there's a company, Nestle, who is making orange juice. Maybe with their orange juice, maybe they have extra sugar, maybe extra ginger, and maybe some extra water. and it's not as good as the one you prepare for, but you're gonna have to drink it like that because that is what they are offering. And let's say you wanted to go through the stress of doing it yourself, starting from the orange, you could have got what you needed in any way, shape, or any way, shape or form you want. But you have to go through the stress of maybe going to the market to get the orange, and then preparing the orange, and then obviously having a finished product. But you can, because you are starting from scratch, you can turn that orange to whatever you want. That is the beauty of playing with a VM. But some people might not have the know-how of turning an orange into a proper orange juice. So those people, what would they do? They'll go to the supermarket and buy the finished orange in the package container. But what they're going to be having will be whatever
Why are you not
else.
speaking?
Okay.
Is it cold?
Okay. I mean, there's a lot of noise here. It's not nice. Okay. All right. Just for that. So if you were at an interview and they ask you to distinguish between as, PAS, and SARS, it's always good to use analogy that will, that will strike a tone with them so that they know you know it. SARS is like the holy grail. It is when everything is finished as one solution. Because, for example, if you wanted to use maybe you wanted to book your visa or passport renewal with the Nigerian embassy, you go onto the Nigerian portal and then you use their portal to make the booking. For that portal to work, there's so many things happening behind the scenes. You can look at it as almost like a SaaS solution. Okay, but that's not exactly it. But you look at it as a full-fledged solution. A SaaS solution will have many, many things it's using behind the hood. You might need a database system, you might need a web server, you might need an app server, but that will be packaged as one solution. So if you are, for example, one Mr. Ahmed or one Miss Cynthia, if you don't have the technical know-how to build out your system, you will go and get that full-fledged SaaS solution and just use it. But you're gonna be using it as the way the company or the individual that's built the SaaS, the way it's done it, will be the way you use it. I gave the example of Wix or WordPress. Those are portals that you can go and create your own website, but you'll be limited to what they make available to you. So that is very important. Whereas platform as a service, it's very specific, it's very niche. They are not giving you a full-fledged solution. They only give you a specific part of the platform. So it might be a database system they are giving you. It might be a web server system they are giving you. It might be an app server system. That in itself will not give you a full-fledged solution. It is like you are making a car. You can go to the shop and get the car brand new, or you might say you want to buy the parts in different places. So the brand new is the SaaS, or you might want to go and buy the part. I want to get the tires from here. I want to get the engines from there, and then you kind of get to go and just build the part together as they used to do. I think Peugeot back in the day in Nigeria. Peugeot was not actually made in Nigeria, but was actually coupled together in Nigeria. So they will get all the parts, bring it to Nigeria, and they will couple the parts together. So that is almost like PaaS. So get all the parts and then build a solution. Whereas infrastructure as service is you actually getting the raw material, which is the metal, the rubbers, the aluminum, and whatever else that you need, and you are starting from scratch. So you can use those materials to make a car, to make a bicycle, to make a chopper, whatever, because you are playing with the raw materials. So you can morph that into anything you want. So it is important to understand that. And where you play will come down to to your skill set. If you don't understand metallurgy or the playing with metal or engineering as much as needed, then you will not be able to operate in the IaaS world, infrastructure service world. So the skill set you have, the timeline you need to implement a project, and the complexity of a project will determine which solution you take. So it's going to be IaaS, infrastructure service, platform service, software service. Okay. All right. On the back of that, now looking at this task that we asked to do, we know we are kind of operating in the infrastructure as a service level. Why is that? Because we're going to be playing with the brown VM. And on that VM, we're going to be setting up a web server. In this case, we're using HTTPD. Also, the backend system, we're going to be setting up Python and Java on those systems. And we also said that for the criteria for completing the work is that we should make sure that each of this machine is in different availability zones. So which means for redundancy's sake, we're not putting our eggs in one basket. So you will stagger the machine. So the web server, you're going to have one leg in one data center, another leg in another data center. The reason for that is for redundancy. So when you are describing your solution to a potential, interviewer, or whatever, or you're even actually designing your solution, you always have to design it for redundancy. And what is the redundancy? The redundancy is ensuring that the solution you design is actually robust and it's able to survive in case one leg fails. So that if one leg fails, it doesn't actually compromise the entire solution. So it's like having an extra tire in your car, so that if you have a tire puncture, you can always replace it. So that's redundancy. You always have to factor redundancy into your solution. So, and how do you do that? You have to make sure that your solution sits in 2 different data centers. Obviously, there are pros and cons with that. The con could be that for redundancy, because they are sitting in different data center, the time it takes for those systems to communicate might be a lot. So he's talking about latency, which is how quickly, how fast systems can talk to themselves. But because if they are sitting in different data centers, then it will take time. It will take a bit of time for them to communicate. Whereas if they were in the same data center, the time communication will be a lot quicker. It's like you're putting one of your machine in Lagos, another one in Ekpe, or another one in Ijebu. Obviously, literally the machines have to communicate. So you have to every stroke of thing or data collection, the same has to go to Ijebu and come back. Of course, the network is all sort of electronic, but it's still gonna take time, as opposed to having them collocating in one data center. So you always have to judge these pros and cons. Is the system I'm building, do I need to build redundancy into it? If yes, then you put redundancy in place by staggering the where the systems are provisioned, the nodes are provisioned. But the downside to that will be latency, which is how quickly the systems or application are able to communicate. So we have to bear that in mind. There are pros and cons to doing this thing. But if you are going to be building a full-fledged enterprise system, redundancy is almost a must. So you just have to work out how you will reduce latency, which are the things, the things you can put in place to reduce that lag that would happen because of the machines are sitting in different locations. We're going to be looking at this down the line at some point. But I thought I should be bringing all these things out because they can be your talking point when you're having an interview. And this will show that you're not just a run-of-the-mill engineer that just wants to run Terraform and couple systems, but you understand what you are building and the advantages and the potential disadvantages it might have. It is always good that when you are doing this thing, you are thinking deep and you're thinking about interview and how you're going to communicate your ideas in a professional manner. So this is what we are saying about redundancy. So ensure you have a template to explain your VM creation, okay? So what we are saying here is that we need to ensure that when we are creating machines, so creating machine takes some time, right? So you might need to do an installation. Obviously, in this case now, we are setting up something very, very basic. So this might not take time. But in real life situation, what you might need to set up in terms of installation configuration might be a lot. And you don't want to be doing that during critical period when things are when system needs to react quickly. That's not when you are trying to install a VM and sort of getting stuck and things are not running and your command is not working. Nobody has time for that. So what you want to do is you want to have like a pre-prepared system that already has everything. It's like you want to travel, you're not going to be looking for a car to take you out if you need to go very early. Is that you already pre-booked the taxi, or you have your car parked in front of your house if you need to get to a place quickly at X time. So that is not when you are going, that is when you are looking for which car is going to take you. How do I book my taxi? You already probably pre-booked your taxi, or you have your car ready to go parked in front of your house, fueled up and whatnot. That is this. So you have a VM that probably already has all this installed, ready to go. You just basically sorry, a VM image. You just basically create an instance of that VM image. You don't need to install anything because that's already pre-installed for you. You just need to bring the VM into creation, and then everything you need is already there and you're good to go. We wanted to see the script we used in doing this VM provisioning and all the rest of the artifact that goes with the solution. This is what we wanted to see. Obviously, class 5 and 6, especially class 6 video, would have helped you in doing that. So what is the whole sort of point of doing HTTPD, Python, and this two-tier thing? Okay, so I'm just gonna show us why we would need this and how this connects and what is happening behind the hood. Because as we are understanding this, then it would help us to have a clear picture as to what is going on in an enterprise system. Okay, so because when we get to containerization, you will understand why we're doing containerization. When we get to serverless, you understand why we are doing serverless. And currently now we are sort of working on in the VM space. This thing will get clearer to us as we are stripping all these what's it called, information and buzzwords down. Okay, in this case now we are saying availability zone 1. We have the Apache web server, or you could have installed Nginx, it doesn't matter. And we have Python and Java sitting here as well. So the whole purpose of doing this is, as a DevOps guy, you would be responsible of setting up the network, setting up the artifact, the VMs, and the software that go on the VM. And it will be the duty of the developer to furnish you with the code that would need to run on the web server, and the one that will run on the Python and the Java in this case. And in terms of communication, how does this combination, how would it work? How would the system kind of talk to them? So what is actually going on there? This is what we are going to see today, so that it will make things a little bit clearer to us. And then what we are going to do to kind of cement our knowledge will be then to look at how we can use tools to even simplify our work further. So this is what we're going to be covering this weekend. So without much ado, so what I want to do today is I'm going to assume we already have a web server. Please, if you are hearing like fireworks, let me know, because it's quite loud here, so I can pause the class for a bit and let it clear out. But if you're not, it's good. All right, so we have a web server here, so which you would have as the DevOps guy, you would have prepared, and you have the other machine which is running Python and Java already prepared as well. In reality, these are all prepared for an application which a developer will have written, will be dropped on the web server, and then will turn that web server to serving the web page a developer will have prepared. And it will also provide some artifact, maybe Python artifact and Java artifact that will run it. And the plan will be that the web system will consume data from the Python system or the Java system. Just imagine, just for illustration, say we wanted to design a website that would show us price of food items, maybe fruits and vegetables. Okay, price of food item, fruit and vegetable. That would be, in presenting that, you're gonna need like a web front end, which is maybe www, so maybe it's www.mymarket.com, and then you go there, and on that page you will have something like, orange X amount, mango X amount, and the vegetables maybe spinach X amount, carrot X amount, and so on and so forth. So the presentation layer will sit here, which is the web stuff. But what is giving the presentation layer the data might be coming from the back end here, or the middle tier, or the tier 2, and that will be feeding the system. So I want to kind of put on the art of the developer to kind of show us how things will work in his world. So in reality, you would have been communicated this information to prepare the system, blah, 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 blah. Also, the developer would have got his own sort of memo in terms of what he needs to do. So the developer will be doing his own coding, you'll be doing the system preparation, and at some point there will be a bit of a handshake to make sure everything sort of ties together. So this is what we're going to look at now. So I'm going to put on the hat of the developer to kind of show us what this will look like. So the DevOps guy is provisioned to system. The developer is working his own local environment to get these all side of things completed. Please bear with me. The noise is definitely here.
But we can't even hear anything.
Oh my God, I can't focus because it's like apologies. Today is like some day that it's like they're fighting a war and it will go on for like 30 minutes. 30 minutes. So I'm trying to focus. Apologies if I'm not totally coherent. So it's like the every year November there's serious firework that they do. But it's good that you're not hearing it. So just for me to make sure I'm focused. All right, cool. So what I want to do is let me go here. My system, make directory, make yeah, I'm gonna call it week 4. CD week 4. So I'm a developer, right? Let me clear my screen. Okay. So imagine I'm a developer. You've done this beautiful work. Okay. You've provisioned this to the system, but this system are not just going to be there because when you looked at your work, all you could show me was the version of the Python you're running, the Java you're running, which is all good. And then you're running with Apache Web Server, which just say it works, but that's fine. But that is not the point of making this thing. Something needs to run on this, and that is what the developer needs to do. And then it will give you the instruction what you have to do to make those things deployed successfully here. So the developer guy on his own machine, he will say, okay, all right, I have to build a front end and I have to build a back end system. And then it's gonna get to work. So I'm just gonna bear with me. I'm gonna speed things up a little bit, but just bear with me because I want us to understand this flow. Let's see. Okay, so week 4, I will do something like this. Okay, I would say code that. So I'm opening my VS Code here, which is week 4, and it's all empty. Right? Gonna close this out. Yeah, trust. Gonna close it out. I'm gonna close that out. Gonna go here. We've seen this before. So what I would do is I'm gonna create 3 directories. I'm gonna call these web. I'm gonna create another one. I'm gonna call this Python. I'm gonna create another one. I'm gonna call it Java. This is how the developer will work. In reality, it might actually be like many developers. So I'm just kind of playing it cool as just one guy. But in reality, it might be different developers. The plan is to start writing the code. The developer will test his code locally. He doesn't know about your machines. You are the one that has those beautiful machines. They don't care. They're just gonna do their things on their own local machine and make sure things work. The developer guy will start with this, maybe, oh, let me do my front end. It's gonna start building his HTML page where it would do something like, pardon me, please. Okay. So So he would then come here and he will say, okay, now I'm gonna do what I call my index.html page. And I will start kind of writing is HTML index code. And on there, just this. So on there, you would have something like, let me see if I can create a template of what that will look like. Mhm. Yes, I have a template. Let's see. And I can just test it. Then we can use that. Let's play with this template for now. So this is a template. So this is what they're gonna do. In reality, you don't really need to know about this, obviously, because there's a bit of a thin line going on now between a developer, a DevOps person, an SRE person, a platform engineer kind of person. Things are changing. So sometimes, I mean, these days now, it makes sense to start having an idea about these things. And I think maybe week 8 or week 9, when we get to using without, sweating too much. But in reality, let's kind of play it the way we play that traditionally. In this case, the developer will do this work. It makes sense to have an idea of what they're doing, but you don't really need to know too much. Okay, so he kind of designing his front, sort of the web end of thing, which is the going to be the front, the tier one, the front end. So in here is kind of creating food prices, and you want to load food prices, and then you want to specify an endpoint where food prices will load. Let me just call this lookup for now. I'm going to explain all this in a bit. And then it has this web front end defined, and it has a JavaScript that would connect to potentially a back end to fetch the prices, and then things will run. So this is what it looks like. We're going to run it a bit. You're going to see it won't work initially, and then it will work at some point. So he designed his web front end here, and on his local machine, he will test. So he will go something like maybe here. The terminal. If it comes back, okay, the terminal has come back. So what he would do on his local machine, he would say, okay, I've designed the front end. Let me just copy this file. So he would check on his machine. Do I have Nginx running on his own local machine? I'm on a Mac machine. So he would say, run engineer restart service. Or before you restart the service, it's going to copy the file to Nginx location on his own local system. So USR, my own local system. This is where the file needs to go. Remember, this is my local Mac machine. I'm not any server. I'm gonna copy the week 2. So I'm gonna copy the web, which is this one. So by the way, I'm here. So Python Java web, Python Java web. Okay, this here is here. So I'm gonna go into web, and I created the file index file. So I will copy the index file. I'm gonna drop it on my the shared directory that Nginx uses on my machine, which is this location, www. This is where the file needs to go. I'll copy the file there. So the file is there now on my local machine. I will restart Nginx. Brew services, restart Nginx. Okay, all right. Okay, it's restarted. So with that, I should be able to see what it looks like. Let's see. Let me get a browser. Okay, there we go. So now here we'll say localhost, localhost, I believe, and then we'll run this. Okay, very strange. Let's see that. Okay, I think I may have copied into the wrong place. I think what about W? So let me see. That's the
think-
old file. Let me just take it. Okay. So school website. Okay. Right. CP USR. That was dot. Next week. Okay, let me just cut the file. Bear with me, let me check it out. Yes, levels, so that's the one. So then remove.
Sorry, I have a question.
Well, can you please just hold fire? Let me sort this out and then I'll take answer your question. Otherwise, everything falls into date. Okay, let me just resolve this first. If this works, then I'll take a question. Okay, cool. So why is it not? It's this code thing not. Okay. I think that PS. Bear with me. I'm just from what I'm doing now. Just ignore me for a second. Let me just see what is going on. Okay. Okay. What file is he using? Okay. Let's see that. Okay. All right. Just bear with me. Let me just resolve it because it's not seeing the file, which is very strange. I'm going to, I mean, it shouldn't be called school sign, but let me just pretend and just make, bear with me. I'm gonna make this, I'm gonna drop one in there and I will fix this later. You won't have this problem because I'm trying to pretend as a developer, so for me to worry about directory. Okay, CP index into that. I'm just gonna look it for now. This should potentially resolve it, but it's not a good solution. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna come to that later. I'm gonna figure out what is going on. So for now, so all I'm trying to do is I'm the developer, I'm working on my local machine, I'm having some challenges, you will know about it. I'll find a way to resolve it. The developer does what he has to do. Then he said, okay, I'm building a fruit list and I want fruit and prices to show. Okay, I'm gonna hold fire now. So Kunle, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah,
Before I move to
I
this.
was just trying to, because I was a bit confused. Is it Nginx? Because the file, I remember that when we're putting the HTML index.html, we're actually putting it in HTML folder. But now we're not using HTML.
So that's what I'm saying. This is on the developer's machine. So don't worry about what the developer is doing. So that's why I said
Okay.
developer is doing his thing. You don't know what he's doing. He's working on the Mac machine. You are working on Linux machine. It won't be the same, right? So this is not you. This is developer doing it. So, but I wanted you to see how this thing kind of evolve out. That's the whole point of this, right?
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Cool. So, right. So then it says, okay, I'm working locally, developer, and it said load fruit. Fruit is not working, because he's just building it out. He hasn't done any backend work. If you remember, if you recall, when this works, he has to like This is the Apache kind of web server, or the if you like, the Nginx web server where things work, which is this one, which is what is building here. That is meant to pull things from the backend here, which is still on his local machine, but he hasn't built out the backend. He hasn't coded it yet. So he's only done the front end. And that is how they literally build things out. So they will start small and say, okay, I've done the front end. Of course, it needs to load fruit. But where is the fruit information going to come from? It will come from the back end here. So you might then implement full fruit service as a Python application, or maybe as a Java application, depending on what business says. So they might say, okay, the fruit service should be implemented in Python, or maybe the vegetable service should be implemented in Java. Okay, the front end is done now-ish. It's not kind of working, but it's looking for data, but doesn't have data. So this is how the developer would work. You will begin to create things out. And I wanted you to kind of see this in reality. So we kind of build it out together. So you see what it looks like. So you will then say, okay, I'm making progress. I will look at his code and essentially what it's doing is all this is about styling, what things will look like, fruit list. I want to give this price is in dollar. I want to change it to pounds, maybe. And then it's okay, it's going to be installing, it saves it. And then this is where it would talk to the backend system to get the fruit information and so on and so forth. Okay, we've changed the price to, we've changed the denomination to sterling instead of dollar. Then it needs to basically in his system, just copy that update back into the web server on the local machine. You might need to restart, or you might not need to. So, okay, now it's taking shape. Obviously, the fruit is still not loading yet. Okay, so developer will then continue his work. Yes, okay, now I need to start building out my Python code. And his Python code, he then needs to start basically writing his Python software. When I say I want to implement a service that would basically provide me fruit information, and I want to use Python for that. In terms of the language they use, usually maybe that's determined by the team or the skill set they have, whatever. It might be something that developer has some leeway about as well. In that case, that needs to be built out. So you would then say, okay, Python is going to start. And the framework is going to use what depend on what the business, what they understand, what the business understands, what the developer is familiar with. In this case, I'm going to use a framework of this API. So I create a file, say we'll create a main.py file. So main.py for Python. So it goes in here and it basically starts writing the code. So we'll say, all I'm doing now, don't worry about it. From past API, I'm just going to try and build it. Old API, I believe, API. And then what else are we going to need? I think we might need medical. API. So when we get to middleware, when we get to using AI, you will see how easy it is to build this yourself if you are interested in doing it. But we're not there yet now, so at some point we'll get to that. Basically, you're going to see how easy it is to build all this out. First middleware, that's the one. And then I'm going to start the application. I'm going to say app is fast API. Okay. Probably will add a code later. So I'm going to just probably play with the fruits. What can we do here? Let's create a list of fruit. Let's say fruits will be something like, let's create a list. A list, we're gonna create create a data dict. So we're gonna say something like name. Okay, all right, let's do name and price. Name, something like this. And then we can say and put something like Apple. We can then say price is what? Price. Then we're gonna put price as, say, maybe to something like that. The name is Apple, price is that. Price is numeric, sort of decimal. So we go and then we just basically make this like a note. Then check the name and whatnot. Uh, but, okay, so we can then change this to maybe price. We can call this like, and that should be cheaper, maybe 0.8. Can call this pineapple maybe. Apple. And then probably is a base 2.2. Can call this cherry. Cherry. Yeah, let's just do cherry is fine.
Mango.
Because I can't spell cherry. It's not okay. So let's do like 3.5 and then mango. Why not? It's been the last time I heard that word, mango. Okay, let's leave it like this. This is enough. And yeah, we should be able to play with this one. Okay, this is the list. And then we're going to create endpoint that they need to hit to get this. So it's going to get this up. We will use it to create some endpoints. We'll do something like this. So all these things, don't worry about it. This is what the developer does. But I wanted to show us how the genesis of this thing, so it will make sense. So when they are talking, so I'm going to say this app. Now I'm going to create an endpoint, which is a REST endpoint. I'll say app. I'm going to create app.get. And in this case, I will create an endpoint to basically extract this. So it's kind of a RESTful API. I'll probably create a fruit endpoint list. So I'm going to say /fruit. Okay. And then in /fruit, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to call this, I'm going to define method, and then say the fruits. And in here, I'm going to be returning these fruits. Okay, I'm going to say something like return, return. I'm going to say I want to return fruits. So the fruits I'm going to return will be the fruits here. So if this works, when you hit the endpoint, it should return this list to you in this format. So that is the sort of the long and short of it, honestly. I want to make it super simple, but I might get into some trouble doing that, but we're going to fix those things together and we're going to learn together from it. So it's very simple. I have a list. I'm going to create an endpoint that whoever wants to extract this label, call the endpoint, and then that endpoint essentially trigger this, and then we'll extract this, and I'm going to get a JSON response, which say fruit is this value. Again, you don't need to know this. So then say, what's going on here? This is what the developer does. You've done you focus on your bit, he's focused on his bit. I wanted to show this so that we kind of see what is going on. Developer then needs to do a lot of sort of complex things to make this work on his local machine. Remember, he's not doing anything on the server. This is on his local machine. This is on my Mac. So I then go back. See, I'm in web. So here I'm gonna go back to the command, back one step. I'm back here. I'm gonna go in Python, and it will do some series of merry-go-round to make things work for himself. It's gonna be like, hey, what's going on there? Just bear with me. So what he needs to do first and foremost is using some libraries here. He needs to make those library available because this library have been called. And this is, I don't know what I'm doing here. This is curse when I need it actually. So So those library, they need to be made available. So there's a file you need to create, which is called requirements.txt file. You can actually call it anything, just reference it the right way. So I'm just gonna stick to the best method. So there's file called requirement, which is basically where you define the libraries that will be needed. Requirements.txt file. So in this file, I probably would need fast API, no doubt. And then because I'm using I'm going to be using UVCon, which is a key library in fast API. I need to represent that as well. So the icon actually. So I don't want to specify let's say standard. I don't want to specify any version, just if it doesn't work, then I will enforce a standard. So these are the two things I probably would need to get things working as the developer. Okay, then developers sort of set these two things up. Then they need to prepare his environment. That is why developer get paid top dollar, because there's just a few things that kind of goes on to get things working. But when you know it, it becomes second nature. In my case, so I need to prepare my environment. So I need to prepare my Python environment to make sure in all the things I'm doing here, it will look complex. Don't worry, because it's my system. So I know my system, and the way it works for individual developer will differ. So whatever I'm doing, if you don't really understand it, it's fine, because it's what the developer does. So in my case, I want to export my path. So what I'm trying to do is I want to get the specific version of Python I need to use. So I'm doing that. I'm going to say Python 3. Make sure I have the right version. Okay. How about Python? Is it pointing to it as well? Okay. So my Python looks good. Whatever I'm doing, if you don't understand it, don't worry, because this is just peculiar to my system. So I then begin to prepare my environment. So let's say I will need to install Python -m. I want to install my environment, set it up properly. So venv is the module. I'm going to create the module here. And then what I'm doing here is I'm creating some startup script that my system will need Python to work efficiently. I'm actually creating a virtual environment. So what I would then do, which is virtual environment, is specific to coding, not like infrastructure. So what we then do is basically I will source that venv, I will do bin, I will do activate. And then now I'm running in a virtual Python environment. Next thing I want to do, I want to install this requirement libraries. So I will say Python again -module. The module I want to use is pip, and I want to install the requirements file, which is in this requirement libraries, which is in this file. So I will specify install -r, the requirement files. Everything is sitting in the Python folder, which is where we are here. So you would then install that, and all those things start installing. I remember it's just 2 libraries, but there's a lot of things that kind of goes with that library. So if everything goes well, we should be able to get things running now. So yeah, so that is all done. So I would say then I will begin to run it. So normally now the code is almost ready to go. If we've done it well, it should work. Okay, but we might run into some problem. We're going to fix it together. So if it works, what we're going to have, which I haven't run it yet, if it works, what we're going to have is we're going to have a little endpoint here that will say localhost 8080, and then maybe fruits, and then it will just work. So it doesn't work right now. So, but let's see. So we're going to start the Python engine. We're going to do UV icon. And then we're going to call this file, which is main. And we're going to call the app in main, which is what we need. So we're going to say main app. And then we're going to maybe specify the port. We want to run on port 8000, and do 8080 as well. And then we're going to put it in reload level. So we are testing. So this is how we'll run it. If everything works, it should just work. We'll see. Okay, it looks like it's working. So we then go here. Or this should be 8,000. And now you see that is coming. So this is already on the developer's local machine. It's coming now. And this looks good. So what the developer then needs to do is the fruit, which is in when everything starts to work. So in our world, the Python in real life, when it's not running on the developer's machine, when it's running on the actual server's machine, the Python code will run here. The web will run there. So the web has to point to the Python code. Well, currently now everything is running on my machine, which is local. So the web needs to point to the Python code, which is the REST endpoint. So it's running on the local machine on port 8,000, which is this one. And you can see it's already providing data. So the front end needs to connect to it, which we have specified, which wasn't working before. If we refresh now, it should work. Uh-oh. Okay, all right. Let's see, why doesn't it well? Let's see what's happened. So we'll get the list, blah, 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 blah. Okay, look at those fruits. Let's test this endpoint and see why it doesn't work. Okay. I need, okay, this actually works. So let me put some cars information there. I do not know why it doesn't work. Bear with me. So inspect, and then let's go network. On. Is it saying failed? No allow. Okay, cool. So you can see it's saying cause error. So that when the developer sees that, you know what the problem is. So then it's just the code for security reason is not allowing that. So you need to tell the code to allow it. So developer then comes here and say something like app. Let's see, just gonna say app.add. I think it's gonna be middle, this one. It's gonna be middleware, courseware, that one. Got middleware, and then it will say on that. And then I'm gonna do course middleware, which is this one that we need. We're gonna put this one here. We're gonna basically allow what we want to allow. Allow origins. And then we're going to specify what we want to allow. For now, we're just going to make it wide open. Again, this, don't worry, but these are the things that happen in real life that we'll see. Let's do this. And then method, so what we want to allow, the method we want to allow, and headers we want to allow. So let me do it like this. So allow methods and the headers. So I'm just going to open everything up for now. So this is just relaxing the security as far as the coding at sort of like the application layer level.
The middle, yeah.
And then, are you talking to me?
Yeah,
Line
the spelling of the middle,
Line
the
7.
middleware.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Okay, saying it doesn't load middle. So it's already loaded it. So it's good. So yeah, and then we can go back and let's refresh this page. Bob should be our uncle now. And then let's load it. Voila. We can see it's so beautiful now and it works. So essentially what's happening is if you go to that diagram, everything kind of exists in one local machine matched together. But in reality, when it is deployed, we want to get it working, we need to point the front end, which is this one, this beautiful one, to where it's going to get this fruit data from, which is the Python code, which will be on another machine. And in that case, it will not be localhost, it will be the address of that machine. And that then feeds the front end. And that's how they're going to get the deployment done. Of course, you have to remember that when machines communicate, it communicates using a window, which is called a port. Because if you see the web server, you see it's running on port 80. If you don't specify it's 80, you put 80 there, it will just basically this is where the website web server runs. If you don't put it, it's just assume it's 80. That's why you don't see any 18 file. Whereas the Python code is running on port 8000. We can change the port if you want. That means you then have to change it everywhere. For example, we can change it to maybe port 9000 if you want. Then that means you have to reflect that here as well. So if you run it now, this will stop picking information going forward. You can see now it doesn't work anymore because we've changed the port to 9000. Then you have to go into the HTML also and make sure the front end knows where the data sits. You save that, and then obviously just set that back like that. Then you then go back to the web stuff and then do the copy again. Copy the index file, drop it into the Nginx space, and then that would have updated the file to point to 9000, and then this should work now. Except it doesn't work. So did we save it? Ensure that is saved. Okay. Saved. Copy. Because it's still pointing to 8000. Yes. Full refresh. Load. Okay. Now it's working. Yes. Now we're using 9000. And then you can actually cheat to see what is going on. So I don't want to be going into sort of developer kind of world too much. But if you are keen, you can see a lot of things going on. So this fruit endpoint is calling fruit 9000, blah, blah, blah. And that's why it's working here. So I'm going to pause a little bit and then have us deploy this working before we look at how to add vegetables to the list. So developers say, oh, yeah, this is working. Wow, I'm good. I'm going to say, yeah, DevOps chap, I'm good. I want to deploy this. Are you ready? So it's going to say, okay, now I'm going to push my code up, and then you guys can do your stuff and then do what you have to do. But it's working on my machine. I've tested it. And the DevOps guy will say, okay, now that you've written the code, how do I deploy it? And then the developer will say, I'm going to write a README file to explain to you how the deployment will work. So the README file is a file that developers prepare, because the DevOps guy will not know all these intricacies of what you need to do, blah blah blah, to set the system up to make it work the way developer intends to get it working. So it will create a README file that explains how developer needs to go, how the DevOps guy needs to go about setting up things to make the application work. So that will be defined as README file. So let me push that. So what we do here is, let's go here. Let me see if we can get to my template. So GitHub. You see, I do check your work. I think that's Albert's work, something like that. I do check you guys' work. GitHub.com. Template here, template. Okay, so yeah, let me launch my the browser. It's templates. There we are. I'm going to yeah. Okay, so what I would do is, obviously we have the work going on here. It's good. We'll stop it. Okay. Everything stopped. Developers done his work. He's happy, but he needs to push the code out because the developer guy will not be coming to his machine to check things out. So he needs to kind of basically set things up. So what he then needs to do is he needs to create a repo here. So he would say, okay, I'm gonna create a new repo. Probably we'll call it fruit market, something like that. Let's call it fruit veg fruit veg market. Something like that. So create it like that, fruit veg in this market. Now, because he's gonna be working with a couple of and please pay attention to this. He's gonna be working with Python. There's some files that he doesn't want to push by mistake. So it would say, okay, for this project, it's sort of Python related code project. It will select Python so that the system can suggest an idea of what needs to be prepared in his git ignore file, so that some sort of potentially security aware, security conscious files are not inadvertently pushed in here. So the git ignore file is saying what file git should ignore and never push. So when you're creating a project, you have an idea of the project you're going to be working on. It's important to specify that here. So the git ignore file will get created for you. So that's some potentially dangerous file that you wouldn't want to push out by mistake are basically included in the ignore file. And this one will never be pushed into this repo. So we create the repo. And of course, you can create your own git ignore file. You don't have to, if you don't specify anything, you can actually manually create your list. But we'll create the file list here now. And then that might be a question, an interview. Why would you need an ignore file? It is to ensure that to tell Git to disregard some set of files that you don't want to inadvertently push into your repo. The reason you would need this is one, for security purposes. So there's some file that's just security that's sensitive that you don't want to push, maybe your keys, maybe some binary files that are potentially dangerous. So that's one. Also, there might be huge file that might just clog your system and you don't want to copy back and forth that you want to exclude. Also, your environment variables, your environment files, you might not want to include that in your repo as well. So that those are the kind of files you will put in a git ignore file. So please bear that in mind. Why would you need an ignore file? So the repo is created. So what the developer needs to do then is to find a way to push his stuff here. So I should have done this before actually starting the project itself. So that's my bad. So the way this should have started is create a repo and then start the project. But nevertheless, I'm gonna kind of work this out somehow and then push this stuff on. So the first thing I should have done is create a repo and then start the project. So but I'm gonna work this back a little bit. So what I would do, I'm just gonna patch it. Again, this is not important now. This is just what the developer does. So you probably won't see all this mess that's been that's happening. So I'm just gonna where am I? Okay. So in web, so inside web, I've got that. So I'm just gonna back up one step. I'm gonna do week 4. I'm going to back one step again. Will in week 4, I'm going to then do the git clone in week 4. This is what I should have done. And then it will be, sorry, git clone that. So I'm cloning, there's nothing, I'm just basically cloning the repo on here. In there, there will just be the ls, see the files, there's a new file. There will be fruit and veg market. So what I need to do is I'm just going to put all this in there, just to rearrange things. I'm going to close all these ones and I will move them into fruit and veg. Java goes in fruit and veg, Python goes in fruit and veg, web goes in fruit and veg. So everything is in fruit and veg. So I'm kind of managing them there now. So if I do ls here, it's only fruit and veg. And then in fruit and veg, I can begin to do my operations. So if I cd to fruit and veg, And then if I do watch, so in here, so I've got Java, I've not done anything in Java, Python, I've got some, this is the most important file, maybe requirement file. All these ones were created because I needed to run Java on my local environment. So this one ideally you should be pushing those out. We only need to push out main and requirement as developer. So if you look at the ignore file, automatically those would have been included. I believe the py should be excluded. That's why this is what the git ignore file is saying. And maybe env file as well. And we're gonna find out. So when we say git status here, so I say I found web and Python. You see, it's not talking about Java folder. The reason it's not talking about Java folder is because Java folder is empty. The folder is empty, Git would generally ignore it. So we're gonna say git add all, then we're gonna say git status, and these are the things it's pushing, which is beautiful. So all the extra noise is being excluded because we have the ignore file. Okay, I'm just gonna say git commit -am. I will say adding web and Python artifact, and then when I'm gonna do git push, this will be my first push. Okay, we're good. So if you come back, if you then go here, and then we refresh this page, maybe yeah, so here, we should see all those things coming through. So we can see here. So we got the Python one, it's dropped, the web one, it's dropped, and then we're good. So but it doesn't provide the instruction on what the developer needs to do to be able to have this deployed. So it behoves the what's it called? It behoves the developer to provide the instructions that the DevOps guy is gonna need to be able to kind of do his work. So we kind of just, let's try and create it. The README file is what it's called. So let's create that so that developer then can, so ideally this is where it should be. You can add it here, but it makes sense to kind of just, I don't want to add it here. So you can just add it, but let's do it properly. So let's come to our code and it will come here and it will just create a README file. The way you're gonna know if somebody is a top DevOps guy or a developer is they will always have README file. That's always the first giveaway. The README file is very important because nobody will know how things will work if you don't tell them how. And a lot of people forget this. So we're gonna call it fruits and veg. Okay. So we're gonna say we're just define it a simple app. I'm just gonna kind of look this simple app to show how a two-tier app works. A list of, I say, fruits and vegetables. I can type vegetables. And then the developer might say something like this. Might say something like HTML plus JavaScript. That'll be front end, fetches data. And then it will also have maybe that, and it will say something like, for now, we're just gonna do fast API /Python. which is front end on tier one. Let's do that one. Tier one. Let's call this backend. Tier two. And then basically blah provides fruits like that. So let's kind of keep it kind of simple for now. Let's just leave this like this. Okay, anybody asking a question? I see somebody typing stuff. Okay, cool. Not confident. So this is what it could be long, but we're just gonna keep it simple now. So this is what the list will look like, and then we do git status, or you can basically use your git thing and push it out. Let's cover that in week 5, week 6. So I'm gonna just do git add the readme file, and then git commit, add that readme file, and then I'm gonna push it. Okay, if I then go here, of course I'm not creating this file here. So if I then go here, if I refresh, you can see now it's showing here. Root, vegetable, HTML, blah, 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 and that's what it looks like. So this is just saying, and you can see straight away the GitHub code knows that okay, 75% HTML is 20% Python. So he knows. So you can then say tell the developer, oh, this is it. And then you can even provide information as to what port you should run and what the developer, what the DevOps guy might need to change in the code to make it work for them. So you can say something like maybe notes. You can just do hash note. Front end. Sorry, first API. The front end points to the Python backend, to Python backend on, let's say, localhost 9000. You might need to update this. And also, it will also say something like this. Front end requirements. Okay, and then you would say something like install nginx /httpd and deploy index.html file as required. So we can also look for the backend Python requirement. Backend Python requirements. So I would say install Python 3, maybe 11 or whatever we'll specify. Python 3 something. And past API library. And I can do something like we can put the command there, the command we use. We get it from our local machine. What did we use? Let's use the Maven code. The UV code. So something like this. So to set it up. So I think let's do it one at a time. So the first thing we need to do was to do Python 3 minus m v. That's to install. Okay, I think this is the first thing we need to do. So that's the first thing. This is to set up required script. And before that, you can say ensure you have ensure you have Python 3 on your machine, on the server, something like that. And then this is this setup required scripts, and then that will be the next one. Yeah. So all the stuff will be defined for you, or whatever it's going to be, so you won't be lost essentially. And then activate arc activate. Apologies. So it's just so activate the scripts, and then to activate that, what we did was we did Python, we did source .venv being activate, I believe. And then after activation, this is basically set up a virtual environment for the Python code, and then install libraries, and that will be Python minus m pip is the module we're going to use to install it. This is all we already done. As our requirements.txt file. That's what we're going to do. And then run app. And then to run app, we are going to use the UV icon library command. I'm going to do UV icon. And then we're going to specify depending on the location. So main app, you're going to see a lot of back and forth between developer and the DevOps guy. You see what happened, because it's never easy to take a code and just get it working. I'm trying to kind of get close as possible to what real life situation. Then we'll maybe specify a port, maybe say port 9000, whatever. This is going to change as we kind of move along. So let's kind of keep it nice and simple now. Save this, and then we'll update this as well. So we just added updated README file. And then we'll git push. Okay, and this goes hopefully. And then just run it, and yeah, you can see it's changing a little bit slowly but surely. Right, so now the developer don't know what he has to do is for the DevOps guy to then get to work. Okay, the DevOps guy might say, okay, I'm going to run this on 2 machines per my setup. So it's going to run on 4 machines eventually, but let me do one tier 1 and one tier 2. The tier 1 will run my web server, the tier 2 will run the Python. So it would then say, okay, let me spin up 2 machines. Okay, so it comes here and says, okay, I will go to AWS console. Ta-da. No, I'm on the wrong one. I have different accounts. Do. I do this. AWS console. And slow. Okay, this is the right one. So I'm gonna bring this one here. Okay, let me just find a space for it. Okay, find a space for it. Anyway, I think the time is gone, so let's just keep it simple and then make it as roots. Master class, next. And class sign in, okay. And then provide an MFA for that. And then I'm going to Microsoft, look at my stuff, and then set this up. And we are Masterclass 2025 474 743. Okay, that's late. 385 707. Sign in. Let's bear with me. This is like 447. Okay, got a bit of a problem here. This kind. I can't connect, then I can't provision. Please bear with me. I don't know why this is happening. I don't know what is happening, but this is the instance here. Just gonna bring it here. I bring it here, so I'm able to connect to it here. I don't know why that is not working. This one. Okay, so that's my cat there. I don't know why I couldn't connect from that. Let me check here. Hopefully this works. Okay, yeah. Let me know, boy, why I can't connect to it, but this is my instance here. So I'm gonna spin up 2 machines real quick. I'm not gonna discriminate as to which AZ availability zone I have it, because for now I just want to test out whatever developer has given me actually works. So, and then I'm gonna spin up 2 machines. One will be for the web and one will be for the app. So I'll say launch instance. So I don't have any template of VM yet. I'm just gonna say which instance. I would say I'm not gonna give you, I'm just gonna say nodes because I'm gonna change the name later. So I'll say nodes. And then actually let me do one at a time so we don't complicate it. So we do the web one first because it's gonna need different ports. So the web one is gonna allow HTTP traffic. So we have to specify that. Let's put the master key there. And then everything else remains the same, more or less. And then we get this to work. Okay, and while that is going on, we would go to EC2 again, and then we'll spin up another instance. We're gonna call this, say it's still spinning. So let's call this Python backend. I and it sticks the same. The good thing about this is I think by default, Amazon Linux gives us Python library, so we won't have to do anything. The only thing we need to do here is the Python code. We need to remember the port is going to run on. So if we choose port 9000, we need to enable port 9000 here. So we would, okay, it allows to create any traffic. Okay, so let's cut this out. We're gonna see if we can edit this. So we're gonna add a new port here because we want to enable port 9000 so that access can be allowed for communication. So you see here, so we're gonna specify custom. We will say everybody around the world. In reality, we will lock it down to the machine, but I don't want to complicate it for now. Let's just say we want to allow anybody to be able to access that port 9000. So you have to know in advance the port number you're going to use and that you want to use to expose the Python code so that we go back to the diagram. If we can find it. So the web tier sits here and it needs to have a window to talk to the Python code. The Python code has to tell it which window. And we're saying this should be window 9000, but that window has to be open at the VM level. That's what we are doing here. If you don't open that window, even though your Python code is running, they will not be able to talk. So you have to open the window from as a security layer. So which is what we are doing here. And we are saying the whole world, well, everybody around the world should be able to hit that Python endpoint. In reality, we won't do that, but we're just gonna simplify it for now and just will launch it. So we'll go back to instances. So we've got the web, and then for fresh days, we should have the Python backend. So if we connect to the web, I'm gonna make it really quick. So we go to the web, and then we would connect to it. Let's connect from here. So we'll set up Nginx as the developer has basically advised. Or here, and then you then begin to verify the instruction, the front end, blah blah blah. Yeah, install Nginx and deploy the files required. So we'll install Nginx to start with on the web. So connect. So say here, so here, just for good measure, just to see, I'm gonna use Nginx as my web server. I could choose anything I want. So yeah, so we would do okay, we'll do sudo yum install Nginx. Yes, let's just get things moving quickly. Nginx is installed, we can just say sudo service or system control, or you can use service system control, system ctl start Nginx, and that, and Nginx is running. So now if we go here and then look at the IP address of the machine, which is this one, we put that here, and then we'll run it, and then we'll paste it here. And then we'll make sure we have HTTP in front. Sometimes we just assume and just add some funny things in front just to HTTP. Then you run that and see it's available. So if you then go here, and then all you then need to do now that is running, you need to be able to deploy the file. The file we created, you need to be able to deploy that file into Nginx so that it will be available for the system to be able to pick it up and use it. So essentially, there is a directory calls, I think is lsusr, Nginx, user share Nginx, and then HTML. So this is where the file should go here. So we will override this file, but that file needs to come from the repo here. So we need to clone this repo and then move the file around because we don't have this web file on the system here. Yeah, the file does not exist. So we're on the system here. So what we need to do is to find a way to download the file. Let me just put everything in one location so we are not going back and forth because it might be a bit confusing. Bear with me. So I will move this. I'm gonna move it here next to it. Okay, yeah, so we have everything in one place. So this is the machine which we are browsing here, which is just showing the default stuff. We want to find a way to deploy this index file on this machine so we can update that. So to do that, so where we are is here. So we can clone this page, clone this repo, and then we just say go back to fruits and veg, and then we do clone. We have to clone as HTML because we don't have the keys to connect to authenticate and maybe get the SSH endpoint. The Git endpoint, which is the Git protocol. HTTPS because we're only downloading, we are not uploading or updating from the machine here. So as a DevOps guy, you just want to clone what the developer has done. You don't have the intention of changing what is done. So you do the clone, and you see you don't have Git to clone. So you need to install Git, and it might be part of the instruction that then goes to the developer. Oh, you didn't tell me that we're gonna need Git. And then he will say, okay, requirements. He will then update his requirements in his own stuff. So, but we need Git, obviously. So we install Git, sudo install Git, yes. And then Git gets installed. I've done this before. And then we'll then do the clone. And then if you look here now, the file is there. And then we go to fruits and veg. If you look at the file here, we have all the README and whatnot. The README file was what we were looking at before, which is obviously here on the web as well. And then you did just ensure you can go to developer that, oh, you need to install Git. And then the guy will gonna say, okay, requirements. And then the developer will say, okay, I'm gonna add it. And then he will then go to his work and then say, install. Okay, it's already here actually. Install. Say also install it to download repo. This one will need Git as well, because we need to download the repo when we get to the backend side of things as well. So the instruction, then it saves it, and then it will push his code again, commit, updated, maybe second update, and then it pushes his code. Now, if you go on here, on the web, obviously it will be on the web. So if we refresh this README page, if you go back there, and then you will see that I've not pushed it. Okay. Okay. I've not pushed, so I've committed, I need to push. And I pushed, and then I can go obviously go find it. So I then go back here. If I refresh this page, I will see the data has been pushed. Let's see. It's just taking some time. Now, hopefully it comes back in a bit. Okay, it's come back. And then is it showing that yet? No, really. Let's see. Why is it not showing that yet? So install Git to download it. So that is obviously reflecting now. So if you check where the actual thing is happening, which is obviously we then have the code downloaded in here. Whatever update we've done would not be shown on this machine, because if you look at the README file here, not that we're gonna use the README file here, but you will see that any update that is done recently after we downloaded to this into this machine, it's not reflecting. It's not showing the Git here. It's not showing that instruction here. So now we need it here. Well, all I'm saying is any update that you do after you've pulled down your code onto this machine, you won't have it because the update has been done by the developer, pushed onto the server. It's showing on the GitHub server. So it's showing on here. But because you actually done your download, which is the clone prior, that's why it's not shown here. So for you to pull the latest information that may have been uploaded since the time you downloaded, if you want to pull any new update, you have to do git pull to pull any new update. And that will pull, you can see it's pull 2 new lines. That's what it's saying. So you are pulling the latest. After you clone, you always need to pull to get whatever latest that may have been pushed to the server. So if you then do cat readme, you will see that the new info is there and it's here. Okay, now the instruction, we can look at it here, we can look at it here, whichever one we choose. So the instruction says install HTTPD, go to Git landlord. It didn't also say, it didn't tell you how to copy the file, but it said deploy the file. So we deploy the file, but it's not really telling us how to. So how do we deploy the file? So we will go here, we'll find the file. The file is in web. Okay, we'll copy this index.html. We're going to copy it to USR share nginx. Then we're going to copy it to HTML, and there's a file there, and then we'll copy it there. Okay, it's permission denied because you need sudo access there. So you then say sudo, and then you will use that. So one secret is, anyway, let me not complicate it. I was going to show you a shortcut to doing this, but I cannot be too much now. So let's save this. So we are copying the code from where we have downloaded it into where it should be for it to reflect on the web page when we go to the Nginx endpoint. So we'll go back to our little diagram. So with everything is sort of here now, the file is in the right place. And then if we effect this endpoint, it should change now. You can see it's changed. So if I give you this endpoint on the chart, you should be able to access it. So it's on the chart. I think I'm saying to one person, sorry, everyone, pardon me. Everyone. So, right, so we got it there, and then you see it. Obviously, when you try to load it now, it will fail. Oh, it's pointing to it. Am I on the right machine? This is strange. I think it's just cached. So list fruits, now is very strange. Just bear with me. Okay. Now, I think, have I got the right machine? Yes, it shouldn't work because we haven't deployed the Python bit. Okay. This is so strange. Please try from your hand and let me know what you get. I think this is cached. This is
It
probably
doesn't work
Not
here.
working, not working from
exactly.
my end.
It's
It doesn't work.
cached. It's cached. So it shouldn't work because we have not done anything. Okay, which is very strange. Okay, it shouldn't work. So what we then need to do is we will go here. So everything is sort of good on this side, going by the diagram. So we then need to jump over to the Python one and then follow the same instruction. I mean, the instruction provided by the developer. And we connect to the Python one as well.
Sorry,
Just say connect.
I have a question.
Hey, speak up, Cynthia, I can hear you very, very thin.
Okay, the reason why it's not working, sorry, you put port 9000. So in the portal, do you have that open?
It shouldn't work. That's the point. So my
Exactly.
system is cached. That's what I'm saying. So ignore what is happening on my system. That's what I'm saying. We haven't deployed yet, so it shouldn't work at all. But it's working on my machine because I have my what's it called? My browser doing some caching nonsense. It shouldn't work at all because we don't have anything on that machine. Okay, now it's called it. It's so strange. Let me launch a new browser. Everything is cached now, so it's a crazy world. I don't want to bust my guy. But what I'm saying is, if you ignore what is happening on my machine for now, because this should not work at all. It's crazy. It shouldn't work because it's not deployed. So what you are seeing is just a crazy caching going on. Let me see if I can use Chrome. Safari is crazy. Let's see Chrome. Chrome might be able to be better. Okay, load fruit. And this is crazy as well. What is going on? Okay, let's see what is happening. We can always inspect. This will tell us what is happening. So if we go to source, which I do not want to do, load. There we go. Okay, what is happening? Fruits. Localhost 90 fruits. Okay, is anything happening on localhost 90 fruits? And it's saying it's getting something back. Oh, I know why. I know why. Okay, I know why. So it's because I think on my machine I've got some Python thing running. So because I was there, so it's pointing to it on localhost. It's very crazy, but let me just clean it up. System is not wrong. The point is it's pointing to, so I've got this working, right? This is on web, but it's pointing to localhost. It's very difficult to explain, but that localhost is my machine, so it's able to figure it out. So, and that's why it will not run for you because this is still running on my machine and it's pointing to it as local. So that's why it's running and it's just crazy. So it shouldn't run now. I've stopped this, which I haven't stopped. FG, stop. Okay. And please ignore all that. Ideally, this shouldn't work. Okay, so it's failed. Okay, and that's what we expect. Okay, the reason it was working was because it was pointing to my localhost. And that's why it wouldn't work for you, it would work for me. It's just a developer thing going on, so it shouldn't work. All right, so let's go back to that. Let's just close this out. It's a complicated business. Let's refresh this, and that should have cleared things out. Okay, cool. So now we look at this now, and then we say we want to install the Linux one because this is broken, obviously, and it shouldn't work. Right. Now, two things will happen. the first thing that will happen is if you look at this, if you look at the setup we have now, we're going to cut corners just to simplify things. If you look at the web one should, when we deploy it, we're going to cut corners. I'm going to explain myself in a little while. It's pointing to locales where it should get the fruit, which is the same local machine. So it's saying where the fruit information will come from will be this, because this is how the developer did his work. Everything was running on one machine. But in reality, we are not using one machine, we are using two machines. So the web should not be pointing to local, it should be pointing to the machine 2. And it needs to have the machine 2 information, which will not be local host, it will be the name of the machine 2. So that this needs to be updated to reflect the machine where the Python code would work. In real life, there will be a configuration file that automatically updates, but just to simplify stuff, we will update this to reflect the location of the machine, because she will not be local host. So you would then say, developer, oh, but we're not running everything on one machine. Things should run on different machine. And whenever the developer will say, okay, let's cheat just a little to test now. I'm going to add code, the location, which is not ideal, but I will add code it and it will update. And you say, okay. So because currently now, if you inspect the code, it is pointing to localhost, which is not ideal. So refresh that page, load fruit, fails, and then you view, inspect, and you see where it's pointing to. It's the network. It will tell you it's load fruit, and it will say it's trying to connect to localhost fruits, which shouldn't be. So you then say, okay, everything is not running on local. Local doesn't mean same local machine. So you would then say, okay, I will update, and then it goes into is little, and they say, give me the IP address of where the Python code would work. And then you would then go and have a look and say, okay, all right, I'll give you the machine name or machine address. Okay, then you go to your own little world, and then you will say, okay, the machine is backend, blah, 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 and you give it the name of the machine. It has to be public, not private. It has to be a name that's able to resolve public. You can go by the public IP address or the public DNS. Let's go with DNS. It's just sound a little bit funky. Okay, and then you give that to developer, you then update, and then you can pull the latest. So it comes here and says blah 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 index, and then it will then put that there. Okay, that's what it's going to look like. So that is the machine and the window. The machine where it's going to go and the window is going to go, and then you update that, and then you then save that. One thing I might want to do as well is, let me see if I can even add a beautiful image here to kind of show what we are doing. Let me see if I can do that quickly. It's just for the nice. So let me get this as a PNG. Let's see. I'm gonna save this to my document. So I want to get this and put it in the README file as well. So don't worry about this, what I'm trying to do now. Just don't worry about this. What I want to do, you will see very shortly. So I'm gonna CD to documents. Gonna do ls-ltr. So that's the screenshot I just grabbed. I'm gonna call it copy. I'm gonna just rename it to two-tier deployment .png. Two-tier, let me just put it together. Two tiers, two-tier .png. Okay, and then I'm gonna open it so that I can just, actually I can just, where do we have the code? So this is in document. So I will then copy the file. What I'm doing this is, you will see very shortly. So I'll do copy documents to tier deployment. I'm gonna copy that file into here. So I have the file here, which is the PNG file. Which is a PNG file, it's here. So that's the file. So what I want to do is I want to reference that file in my README, just for good measure, really. It's not that it's doing anything superbly important. So I would do something like this. I would say, I'm just gonna call it like screenshots of app. And I'll reference it in here as the global. Shouldn't be in web, it should be at top level next to README. Yep, which is where it should be. So, and I'm just gonna do it as to 10 and get the name, copy. So I'm trying to make it as professional as possible, which is one of the things we should try to endeavor to do. And then we just do it as that. That would be what it should look like. Hopefully we got it right. Otherwise, we would come back to it and fix it better. Let me just see this one. That is what we need to do. So we've added a file. We've also updated the README. And then one thing we also did was updated the index file. So a lot of things has happened. We can just basically, you can do everything in the command line, or you can just do everything here if you want. So if you just go here, you can, the 2-tier one, you can add it. And then every other thing you can just commit, added, new files, and update. And then you commit and push if you want. I'm trying to do it in many ways, so we see that's many ways to skin a cat. We looked at this in week 5 and week 6. I know we're a little bit past the time, but I wanted to kind of get us to the finish line. I do apologize. So that, let's look at if that's dropped. Let's update this and see. Okay, has it dropped? Right, okay, the thing is not reflecting, the 2-tier department is not reflecting. Okay, well, I will see what is going on, and I don't want to lose any more time, but I want to get the picture show here. I'll check that in a bit. Anyways, what is important is we got that, we're going to reflect it so that I show on the README file. And also what is important is this is being updated now to reflect that it should point to what's going on. Is it not pushed it? Okay, it hasn't reflected actually. So let me see what is happening. Commit and push. Push. Okay. I don't know what's going on there. Let me just do it here just to save time. Git status. Okay, I'm gonna get git and do ls git commit -am added added files and updates. Git push. And I will do the push, and then let's see it reflect here. So we go back here, and then let's refresh it. Okay, now it's showing. You can see that this is what I want. So this is showing in now README, and it looks a bit professional. And then more importantly though, this is sort of reflecting that is pointing to the right node. So, and this is what we need to then provision, which is the backend system here. So we connect to it, and then we connect. So, and then we follow the instruction, which is in the README quickly go to the README. So the README is all about what we need to do, Python, blah, blah, blah. Of course, the Git, we need to download the repo, we need to install Git and all the rest of it. So we do sudo yum install Git, yes. And then I just get the artifacts down. And remember, this is that machine that the web is pointing to. This web now. Okay, we need to update that web anyway. So the web is this one. So we are downloading. Okay, so this is the Python VM, and this is this. I think I'm rushing too much actually. So let me just close everything down to make sure I'm not complicating it. Okay, so let's go back to the web one. Okay, this is the web one, which is this one. Let's take this one out, the web one. The web one, initially what we had before was the web one was pointing to index, which is localhost. So we need to do a new pull, git pull. To get the new updates, and then you can see that a lot of things coming, but the one that is interesting to us is this ls, the web one. If you look at it, if you just cut it locally, you will see that it's reflecting the new stuff, and then we just need to do the copy. So we just need to copy it, and then of course we've not done the backend, so it's still gonna fail. But what is more important here now that is that it will let's check the source. Let's refresh. You have to use Chrome if you want to be checking source, load fruit. Then you will see that it's pending, but it's pointing to that now. So it's pending because it's waiting for the data and it can't say it. So now it's going to eventually time out. So we then need to then go to the Python one and then make it available. So we connect to it and then install Git, install whatever else that we need. And I'm going to remind us that we already opened the port 9000 when we're provisioning the machine. That's important. So sudo git, sudo yum install. We haven't installed Git yet, which I think we have done, but let's just try anyway. It's already done. Cool. So we have to clone the repo. So we go here. Vegetables. Okay, while that is coming, so we do. I think I'm rushing too much. Okay. Right, so we go vegetables and then we do the clone here, copy, and then we go here, and then we do git clone, and then we paste this one there, and then it's clone, and then we cd to the fruits and veg, and then we have everything we need there. But in this case, we're not interested in where, we're interested in Python. So we cd to Python, and we have our Python code there. Then we begin to follow the instruction. The first instruction is all about making sure you prepare your Python environment. So which is Python, I'm just gonna kind of, it's all here if you want to see it. Or it's Python 3, blah, 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 all this. I'm just gonna do it without going back and forth. So Python 3 minus m venv dot venv is just to use the venv module to prepare the virtual environment. And then I will say source dot venv being activate. Now we have the virtual environment. And I will then say Python / version just to be sure I'm on the right version. Okay, well, I don't know, this might not work, but let's see. 3.9, but we could prepare with 3.11. We'll see. So we say Python minus m pip install minus r, the requirement file. Then that basically just gets out everything we need, fingers crossed. Okay, and then that's basically what we have to do. And then essentially what we then need to do is to then start up the app. So we then do something like this. We're gonna do UV icon. UV icon. I'm gonna say bear with me, ls. So UV icon. And then I can only type UV. And then we're gonna specify the app, and then we're gonna do hosts. We're gonna specify host to use the host interface, which is the network interface card. We don't specify that, it won't work, and I'm gonna explain that properly tomorrow. So we want to use port 9000, and then we'll say reload. This is what we believe we need, and then it's running. Now this is running now, and potentially they should work now. So if we refresh, and then we'll hit this endpoint. Okay, it still doesn't like it. So let's see what is happening. Okay, so we go here. So we can test what is going on. Let me just run in the background, Control Z, PG. So let's see what is happening. I'm gonna try and test this locally on this machine. So I'll say localhost 9000 fruits, I believe. Okay, this is working locally here. Okay, on this machine, the Python machine is working, but the web machine cannot see it. This is what is happening. The web machine here is trying to talk to it, but it's sort of stalling. So, and then that's why it's failed. So we can't see it. And then you need to kind of figure out why is it stalling. So it's trying to load, eventually it's gonna die. So we need to figure out why that is. And the way you do that is use test first and first test locally, it works. So you then have to then say, okay, what if I use the IP address? Does it work? So what's the IP address of this machine? The Python, you can use the IP address. Let's start with that first, and then we'll use the DNS name. Maybe we got the DNS name wrong. So we'll copy the IP address, we put it on the browser, we'll hit this one. We'll have to make sure we have HTTP in front. And then we'll do 9000. And then we'll say fruits, which is the endpoint, FRUIT, I think S, I don't know. Okay, you can see now that even from our browser, it doesn't work. HTTP. Okay, it doesn't work. So that means that it's working within the machine itself, but from outside, if you try to connect, it doesn't work. So you then begin to wonder what could be the problem. So one of the potential problem is that is security. So maybe we didn't say it properly. So we go to security, and you can see straight away in security, we do have port 9000. Okay, security group. So let's check it out. So we go to security group and say, what security does it have? Okay, we've not set it up properly. You can see this one. So, right, it just look a bit weird. So let's edit this and see what we've done. Okay, I did not set this up properly, but there should be another rule, and I've just set it up in a very york way. So SSH is allowed. Okay, so we don't need to put that. We need to add a new rule that says allow 9000 communication. So we need to specify custom port, and we need to use port 9000. And then we need to say everyone is allowed to connect to it, and then we'll save the rule. And then this would then make it possible. So if you then test on its own externally, it would work now. And because it works externally now, this would then work. If you load fruits now, it then does work. So if you try from your end now, it should work. So I'm going to recap these tomorrow because I know it's hard to follow, but this is how it works in reality. So reality is always a bit complicated, but yeah, this is how it works. But eventually we got there, which I'm happy we did. I didn't want to prepare this. I want us to kind of do it together. So you see how it was, you see how I feel, how I adjust things. I think it's important to see that. So it's not just all cleaned up and it just works. You can see I had some issues which I tried to fix. So this is how it works. So what's going to happen tomorrow is, let's look at where we are now. I know I'm kind of overshot the time. I'm sorry about that. I know there's a question just popped. I'm going to have a look. But we'll see we have only prepared the Python bit. So we need, the way this app will work is we're going to have another one that said this is load fruits. And we're going to have load vegetables. And vegetables will come from a Java endpoint as opposed to a Python endpoint. It's just to see how you will provision a Java system, a Python system, and a web system. That's why I'm trying to kind of make it a bit stretched. So tomorrow we're going to prepare a Java system, and we're going to update this way thing to point to it. So we build this code together. You can have a look. I'm going to share the repo. I want to check it out. We've all done it together, so you know what we got here. So, I'm going to check the question now. So then copy, share that, and communication. Also, we don't have to reload the deployment in that way. Yeah, it works. Fantastic. Excellent. Okay, cool. All right, cool. Right. Any questions? We're going to obviously continue this tomorrow. So we do the Java bit and we'll do a bit of a recap of what we've done today. And then we do the Java implementation tomorrow and then update the web endpoint to talk to the Java endpoint. And then we can have this all fledged up. If time permits, we would then do the other leg, or we would create the VMs and then we'll actually implement this in how it should work. But we'll see if we can get there. But tomorrow is going to be targeting the Java endpoint, Java system. Alrighty. Thank you very much. I know I well overshot the time. I do apologize, especially to the people in Nigeria. I know it's about 11 o'clock there. I'm so sorry. Hopefully it's worth your while. I will share the video when it's ready. And thank you. We'll speak again tomorrow. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.